Brilliance Audio presents Mario Puzo's The Godfather, performed by Joe Mantegna. Amerigo Bonazeda sat in New York Criminal Court No. 3 and waited for justice. Vengeance on the men who had so cruelly hurt his daughter, who had tried to dishonor her. The judge, a formidably heavy-featured man, rolled up the sleeves of his black robe as if to physically chastise the two young men standing before the bench. His face was cold with majestic contempt. But there was something false in all this that Amerigo Bonazeda sensed, but did not yet understand. "You acted like the worst kind of degenerates," the judge said harshly. Yes, thought Amerigo Bonazeda. Animals. The two young men, glossy hair crew-cut, scrubbed, clean-cut faces composed into humble contrition, bowed their heads in submission. The judge went on. "You acted like wild beasts in a jungle, and you are fortunate you did not sexually molest that poor girl, or I'd put you behind bars for 20 years. The judge paused. His eyes, beneath impressively thick brows, flickered slyly toward the sallow-faced Amerigo Bonazeda, then lowered to a stack of probation reports before him. He frowned and shrugged as if convinced against his own natural desire. He spoke again. "But because of your youth, your clean records, because of your fine families, and because the law in its majesty does not seek vengeance, I hereby sentence you to 3 years' confinement to the penitentiary. Sentence to be suspended." Only 40 years of professional mourning kept the overwhelming frustration and hatred from showing on Amerigo Bonazeda's face. His beautiful young daughter was still in the hospital with her broken jaw wired together, and now these two animales went free. It had all been a farce. He watched the happy parents cluster around their darling sons. Oh, they were all happy now. They were smiling now. The black bile, sourly bitter, rose in Bonazeda's throat, overflowed through tightly clenched teeth. He used his white linen pocket handkerchief and held it against his lips. He was standing, so when the two young men strode freely up the aisle, confident and cool-eyed, smiling, not giving him so much as a glance, he let them pass without saying a word, pressing the fresh linen against his mouth. The parents of the animales were coming by now, 2 men and 2 women his age, but more American in their dress. They glanced at him, shame-faced, yet in their eyes was an odd, triumphant defiance. Out of control, Bonazeda leaned forward toward the aisle and shouted hoarsely, "You will weep as I have wept. I will make you weep as your children make me weep." The linen at his eyes now. The defense attorneys, bringing up the rear, swept their clients forward in a tight little band, enveloping the 2 young men, who had started back down the aisle as if to protect their parents. A huge bailiff moved quickly to block the row in which Bonazeda stood. But it was not necessary. All his years in America, Amerigo Bonazeda had trusted in law and order, and he had prospered thereby. Now, though his brain smoked with hatred, the wild visions of buying a gun and killing the 2 young men jangled the very bones of his skull, Bonazeda turned to his still uncomprehending wife and explained to her, "They have made fools of us." He paused and then made his decision, no longer fearing the cost. "For justice, we must go on our knees to Don Corleone."